Welcome to Perfectionists Anonymous, a podcast channel dedicated to unraveling the myth of perfectionist living. I'm your host, Caitlin, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. I invite you to sit down, relax, and hang out with me, your supportive friend, who knows how difficult perfectionism can be and who wants to find a better way. Thank you for joining me today. Greetings, fellow perfectionists. I hope you are all doing well. During this busy season, with a new year on the horizon, a lot of us, particularly those of us who default to perfectionistic mindsets, start to think about New Year's resolutions. There's this tendency to look on the past year and all of its perceived flaws. Here are all the ways I screwed up in 2021, and here are all of the things that I wish were different. 2022 is going to be the year that I fix it all, that I finally become the zen, perfectly organized, perfectly successful, perfectly happy version of myself that I know I can achieve if I just try hard enough. And how will I achieve this fantasy? With perfectly crafted resolutions that will magically turn me into my best self. My question for you all is, has that ever worked? Have you ever maintained a resolution for an entire year? Have your resolutions ever led to permanent change or growth? Have they turned you into a completely different person who is actually able to do everything perfectly, just like you dreamed? Odds are that your resolutions have never produced the outcome that you were searching for. Even if you don't identify as a perfectionist, New Year's resolutions themselves are usually extremely perfectionistic. 2022 will be the year where I finally find my dream man and we get married and have my dream wedding. 2022 will be the year where I finally lose 20 pounds and am finally happy with my body. 2022 will be the year where I stick to a perfectly crafted meal plan, diet, and exercise program for always and eternity. 2022 will be the year where I finally get a big promotion and raise, and then I'll finally be happy with my job. 2022 will be the year when all of my problems are solved and I will never ever be sad ever again. New Year's resolutions are perfectionistic for multiple reasons. I'm not saying they all are, but they absolutely trend this way. First, most New Year's resolutions are unrealistic. This is perfectionist error 101, setting an unrealistically high or unachievable goal for yourself and then shaming yourself when you can't achieve it because somehow it was your fault. Second, most New Year's resolutions are based in societal shoulds, things that you think you should be doing even if you don't actually want to, or if that particular should doesn't even work for your lifestyle. Third, most New Year's resolutions are incredibly vague. This is another perfectionist error because perfectionists love to focus on big, perfect ideas with very weird criteria that must all be met in our heads in order for them to actually be realized. For example, a resolution to finally, quote-unquote, lose the weight has no endpoint. The endpoint is completely made up in the perfectionist's head. You know, lose the weight. By which I mean lose as much weight as I deem appropriate, as much weight as it takes for me to finally feel whole and loved and happy with myself and my body. Just enough weight, you know? Good enough, you know? Fourth, most New Year's resolutions cover way too many areas. The human brain is a powerful thing, but it does have limits. It can only process so many things at once, and so many people spread their brain's energy across multiple different areas when they're crafting their resolutions. Okay, for my New Year's resolutions this year, I'm going to clean the house every week, meal prep all my meals, never yell at my kids, be productive at work every day, and save enough money to go on vacation to Hawaii. Most New Year's resolutions are so overwhelming because we are only capable of doing so many things. You may have heard this statistic before, but I think it's fascinating. According to a February 2020 Forbes article, studies consistently show that 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. That's not even 2 months. First, I want to dissect why we feel so much pressure to make resolutions in the first place. Then I want to talk about why resolutions so often fail. And finally, if you decide that you would like to still make a resolution this year, then I want to share my favorite tips and tricks for actually making a resolution that will stick. Because, spoiler alert, perfectionists usually do love to make resolutions and work on improvement, but we often go about it in self-destructive ways. And additional spoiler alert with a little humble brag, I did actually keep my 2021 resolution by using these tips and tricks, and I want to share them with you. So stay tuned if you're curious. First, why on earth do we want to make resolutions so badly? I see 2 reasons. First, societal pressure combined with the pressure that we're already putting on ourselves, and second, manipulative marketing. To the first point, those of us with a perfectionistic brain already put endless pressure on ourselves to show up exactly how we want every day in every situation with all people. The baseline of pressure is already there. And then, when everyone around you starts talking about New Year's resolutions and all of the things that they imagine doing differently in their lives, a perfectionistic brain internalizes those messages and runs with them. Now you don't only have your own pressures, you also have the societal pressures perpetuated by all the messaging around you. Long story short, we make New Year's resolutions because we feel like we have to. Resolutions are things that good, smart, motivated, successful people do. If I don't make them, then I'm bad, weak, lazy, unmotivated, unsuccessful. It also doesn't help that right around this time, all of the companies that prey on people feeling crappy about themselves start to increase their marketing. I don't belong to a gym, and I haven't for years. But do you know how many unsolicited texts I've received from gyms this month when I haven't any other month of the year? At least twice a week. Ads for gym memberships, diet programs, health programs, lifestyle coaches, beauty products, hair products, self-help programs, and more all become more pervasive this time of year. That's because they know we are primed to be thinking about making a resolution, and they're taking advantage of it. Ready for the new you in the new year? Buy my thing, spend your money, and I promise to get you there. Sure you will. So, we're socially and individually primed to make resolutions. The pressure is always there, and most of us do succumb and end up making some form of New Year's resolution. So why on earth do so many of them fail? Because, like I mentioned earlier, New Year's resolutions are more often than not incredibly perfectionistic. And if we've learned anything from this podcast or any literature examining perfectionism, we know that perfectionistic ideals are a recipe for disaster, no matter how good they may look on paper. There are about a dozen reasons that New Year's resolutions might fail, so I'll try to be brief. In no particular order, New Year's resolutions fail because the resolution isn't actually something that the person wants or that works for their life, but rather something that they feel pressured to do. We can sometimes trick ourselves into thinking that a societal should is something that we want, but often if it isn't something that came to you organically or something that you have sort of already started doing, then it probably isn't something that will even work for you. We can lie to ourselves and shame ourselves all we want for not showing up in this very specific way that society demands, and a New Year's resolution is a socially acceptable way to do that. But if you have subconscious or conscious resistance to your resolution from the start, then it's going to fail. And let's say that you make a resolution that you are sure you do actually want, but it still fails. What's up with that? Resolutions also fail even if you want them when the expectations are set too high or are unclear. A resolution of I'm going to work out for half an hour 5 days a week is unrealistically high if you're starting from a baseline of not working out consistently at all. It might sound reasonable, but it's an unforgiving resolution that doesn't take into consideration all of the highs and lows of life that might sometimes, understandably, get in your path. It also doesn't take into consideration your individual starting point. Going from never to always or almost always is a recipe for failure because it's expecting too much too fast. Adding on to that, setting a goal like I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to make more money, or I'm going to improve my relationship with my partner is also a recipe for failure. Because how will you know when you've achieved your goal? What does lose mean? What does more mean? What does improve mean? Resolutions like this will eventually be abandoned because you'll never feel like they've been accomplished. There's always more room to grow or change. Another reason resolutions fail is because there is no grace built into the resolution itself, meaning that if you falter on your resolution, all of a sudden you're a complete failure and why bother trying anymore anyway? We expect perfection in our resolution, otherwise it's like it never mattered in the first place. But this is a perfectionistic lie. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 in order for a resolution to be valid, and your progress absolutely does not need to be a perfect upwards trend of improvement. Progress can look so many different ways, and especially if you're starting from a low baseline, patience, understanding, grace, forgiveness, and flexibility all need to be built into your resolution in order for it to work. Which also brings me to the point about what it even means to fail a resolution. I think a lot of us believe that failing a resolution means you didn't achieve gold star perfection immediately and achieve everlasting improvement or change. In reality, failing a resolution simply means that you've abandoned it entirely, likely for one of the many reasons that we covered above. And then the guilt and shame cycle comes in and tells you that you're a bad person who is lazy and unmotivated and that you have no self-discipline, and you go straight back to whatever your baseline was with no recognition of any progress you may have made or any things that you may have learned along the way. Is it even a bad thing to fail a resolution? If you chose a resolution that was unrealistic, vague, and based in self-judgmental should reasons, then I actually think it's good that you abandoned the resolution. A lot of resolutions are abandoned because they weren't the right fit in the first place, and I think that's completely okay. I would much rather that people go through their lives not pressuring themselves to do something arbitrary that they hate just because the calendar and society told them to do it. That seems silly. So really, I think we need to let go of the pressure to create a resolution in the first place, and the pressure to keep that resolution no matter what. I highly encourage you perfectionists out there to really think about whether making a resolution is something that you can do with kindness and love for yourself. If it's about changing yourself, improving yourself, hating yourself, or judging yourself, then maybe resolutions just aren't for you right now. That's completely valid and okay. No one has to make a resolution. It's not a law. It's not a rule. It's not even something that most people around the world are successfully doing anyway. So please remove that pressure that you feel to make a resolution. And if you do decide to make a resolution, then make sure it's one that you are comfortable modifying, adapting, shifting, or changing completely if you decide that it doesn't work for you. Just because you decided on a resolution in mid-December doesn't mean you're stuck with it for the entirety of the next calendar year. And while we're on that subject, resolutions and goals aren't something that we need or should only make for the new year. Again, all of this is completely arbitrary. silly made-up human rules that you can choose to engage in or not. Now, all that being said, if you think you are in a place where you want to still make a resolution, let's talk tips. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, I do actually enjoy resolutions and coming up with ideas for the new year. I have just significantly changed my definition of what they look like, from a completely black and white, all or nothing perfectionistic definition to one that holds so much more value for my life. So, here's the secret. Step 1, brainstorm. Think about what you would like more of in your life. I like to start with a big picture idea, like I'd like more balance in my life, or I'd like to do more things that make my body feel good. Really take time to think through your ideas so you can find something that really resonates. Picking something that is really important to you and that you truly feel will help you is integral to a successful resolution. Step 2, identify one specific, concrete way that you might be able to bring more of what you'd like into your life. Yes, I said one. Pick one. Picking more than one resolution or goal is a perfectionistic way to ensure that you'll have a much harder time maintaining your resolution. We talked about how our brains can only handle so many different things at once. Remember, you also have to go about living your regular life too. Don't give yourself an unnecessary laundry list of things to do. Pick one and stick with it. Pick one that will fit into your current life. This will make your aspiration so much more attainable and help you feel more successful. Once you've picked one goal, make your method specific and concrete. This is how you can actually feel success with your goal because you don't have some imaginary perfectionistic endpoint in time. You have a real one. For example, maybe your big idea is that you want to do more things that feel good for your body. Maybe your method for achieving that is becoming more consistent with drinking water. This is a concrete method. Drinking water is something you can see and measure. To make it specific, you can use a reusable water bottle and say that you will drink 2 bottles daily. Step 3, stop and check the parameters of the resolution you've come up with. Is it possible? Is it attainable? Is it realistic given your current baseline? If you aren't drinking water consistently at all, then maybe going to 2 bottles daily is too much. Start with something that you are sure you can do. It's going to feel small and silly because we're used to making these big impossible goals, but trust me, this is actually how a goal can be achieved. If you aren't drinking water consistently at all, maybe your resolution is to drink 3 bottles within a week, regardless of the day. This way, you are setting yourself up for success early on instead of failure. You know what's really motivating? Feeling successful. You know what's not motivating? Feeling like a failure. Check your goal to make sure it's something you are positive that you can do. You can always build on it more later if you want. Step 4, stop and check the intention behind the resolution you've come up with. Ask yourself why you want this resolution. If your answer ends up being anything along the lines of, because then I'll look better, then I'll be a better person, then people will like me more, then I'll never be sad ever again, you've created a resolution rooted in judgment and shame and the perfectionistic belief that you are broken and you need to change in order to be worthy. Your resolution absolutely must come from a place of love, care, and kindness for yourself. Resolutions need to have a loving intention behind them. They shouldn't be a sneaky disguise for just another way to shame yourself or just another way that you need to be fixed. If it helps, think if you would impose your resolution on your best friend, your mom, your child, a stranger. If the answer is no, then return to step 1. Step 5, build in a contingency plan. This part is more mental than it is concrete, but it is so important and is usually left out of the resolution-making process. The contingency plan is not, if you miss a day on your resolution or if you fall behind, then you shame yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps until you get back on your plan. No. Rather, the contingency plan is, how am I going to talk to myself when I feel like I'm falling behind on my resolution? How am I going to be flexible with myself? And how am I going to adapt as necessary? Contingency plans can look like, you know what? I had an abnormally busy day today, and so I didn't drink as much water as I meant to. That's okay. I'll resume tomorrow. Or, you know what? I forgot my water bottle at home, and so I didn't drink as much water as I meant to. That's okay. Or, you know what? I'm realizing that meeting my water goal has been tricky. I'm not a bad person because of that, but I know feeling hydrated helps me feel good, and I still want to keep trying this. Maybe I can switch to sparkling water or fruit-infused water instead. Maybe that will help. I'll try some things out and give myself time and patience to see what works. That right there, that is a contingency plan. My resolution for 2021 was to use a calendar daily to help me feel like my daily responsibilities were more manageable. I already used Google Calendar to keep track of my schedule and appointments, but daily tasks, chores, and responsibilities were kept all in my head or in sporadic Post-it note to-do lists, and it was creating me unnecessary stress. So I wanted to come up with a system. In my brainstorm, I decided I wanted more organization in my life. To do this, I purchased a beautiful journal from a small business for $30 that had weekly and monthly calendars with to-do list columns included for each week. I checked my parameters. Looking at a calendar daily and writing things out was completely attainable for me. It was just a more organized version of what I had been doing previously. It was specific, daily, and concrete, with the journal. I checked my intention. For me, feeling organized and like I have a certain amount of control in life is comforting. I'm someone who takes comfort in to-do lists, and I know, based on past experience, that they do reduce my stress because I can see everything rather than trying to keep track in my already buzzing brain. Keeping a daily calendar journal, therefore, was something kind I was doing for myself. Finally, I made a contingency plan. When I missed a day here and there or fell behind, I reminded myself that it was okay and that things happen. When the summer months hit and my calendar was much more light, I adjusted how frequently I used it because it became less necessary. And a couple months ago, I realized that keeping a digital to-do list using Google Tasks started to work better for me because I could keep my work and personal to-do lists separate. So I modified my resolution to shift from a journal calendar to a digital one. We are now coming up on the end of 2021, and I kept my resolution. And better yet, I didn't hate myself along the way or drown in a sea of shame. I didn't have to white knuckle through it either. It was a peaceful process that helped me create a new organizational system that I am happy with. I am still in the brainstorming process for my 2022 resolution. I've narrowed my big idea down to 2 possibilities. I want to work towards creating a more loving relationship with food in my life, and I would like more practice with positive thinking and reframing in my life. For the first, I'm exploring intuitive eating practices, and for the second, I'm exploring using my tarot cards more frequently as a mindfulness tool. I will be picking one of these, so my attention isn't spread thin, and whichever one I choose, I will create a concrete, specific goal with reasonable expectations and a forgiving contingency plan that allows for flexibility, learning, and patience. Whatever your relationship with resolutions, I hope that this episode resonated with you. Remember, If you check in with yourself and feel like you're still in a place where you might use a resolution against yourself, then you do not need to make a resolution. Resolutions are not a requirement, and any pressure you feel to make a resolution and follow it perfectly can be dissolved. Some people never make resolutions, and that is also completely valid. And if you like resolutions and want to do one, then I hope you remember, what do you want more of in your life? What is one specific, concrete thing that may help? Are your parameters reasonable and realistic? Is your intention kind and loving towards yourself? And do you have a contingency plan in place that honors the journey and respects your unique process? If so, then I think you'll find that you may have more success with your resolution than you ever have before. Thank you for listening today, fellow perfectionists. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more perfectionism-related content and to help the channel grow. If you are listening on a podcast app, please feel free to leave a review and give the podcast a follow. If these episodes are resonating with you and you think they might resonate with others, please feel free to share it as well. Until next time, fellow perfectionists.